many of you are practitioners of karate and you know by now how it works. But otherwise, generally the perception of karate is that it's a very physical art, and that's it. That's where it ends. So I'm happy with this opportunity today to go beyond and talk a little more about how the really karate is a holistic art. But just to add to that, what Robin mentioned about my background. So yes, 26 years in karate and 20 years in the corporate world now. So I did my master's in HR and OD from Delhi School of Economics, and this was in the year 2000. So it's been 20 years. And out of a conscious choice, some 18 years back, I started teaching karate. Maybe over the course of this discussion, I'll tell a little more as to what made me really do that. So yeah, thank you, Robin. Over to you.
Okay, so it would be actually interesting if we can start with what got you interested in karate, and then you took on teaching. Though you said you'll talk about it later, but it would be interesting to know why you got into karate.
Of course, absolutely. So I think it was a childhood dream. There's some fascination that you have. There is a fancy that you have for something, and you fancy it. And at a certain stage of life, maybe you started. So the first time around I started was at the age of I think 13 when I was in the 10th standard. Then it just happened that certain other things happened. My board exams came up, and I discontinued. But then that thing was always at the back of my mind that I must continue. And when I started college, that's when I restarted my journey in karate. And I would say that after that, it's been fairly consistent, barring few gaps here and there, but fairly consistent run of how many years? 26 years. Yeah, 26 plus now. So teaching is interesting. What got me into teaching is one of the things that karate really brings to your life. And the first time around when I taught was as a green belt. And in our system, that's a requirement. You have to start assisting and teaching as a green belt. Why our grandmaster has put that into place is because for us to experience what really teaching brings to oneself as a practitioner. So when you're learning as a student, it's one dimension. But when you start teaching, we all know as professionals that teaching somebody else is the best way to learn for yourself. But here it is not just limited to that. The spiritual component of contributing to other people by enabling them to grow is something which is really very powerful. And that is something that we start to get to experience at that stage of a green belt. And I think I got hooked on. From there, then leading classes separately. So once one of my instructors, he said, okay, you take a batch of people, group of people, and for 10 minutes you teach them something separately. So we went outside the training hall, and I didn't realize that it was already 30 minutes before he called me back. I was supposed to go out for 10 minutes, but it was already 30 minutes. So you can see that how I used to get completely drawn into the teaching experience, and what we talk about being in a flow. So time and anything else then don't really matter.
That's right. And that though I've seen you win. By the way, Rahul and I have worked together for many years in Vyakitva, which is a boutique consulting company where we do a lot of coaching, training, consulting. So I've had the opportunity to know Rahul from that perspective also, and I know the kind of work he puts in, the interest, the hard work, the thinking that he brings to everything that he does. So I'm not surprised that instead of 10 minutes, the master also forgot and gave him 30 minutes to do what he does. So Rahul, coming to some questions. So how are you coping up with this current lockdown due to the COVID-19 situation?
The lockdown has been an interesting time. I think it has given us an opportunity to revisit some of the dreams that we have had. So before I go to what am I doing generally, I think two of the dreams which have come up are one, a project which was long term in the pipeline, writing a book. So I'm sure some of us are familiar with my leadership insights, which I keep posting out here and there, especially on LinkedIn and other places. So I have compiled all of those and put them together, and I'm trying to put them into the shape of a book, so that what we are discussing today, in fact, that can also reach out to people. How is it that karate contributes to people's lives going beyond the physical? So that's something which has been on, and I'm also converting that into short sessions. So half an hour to 45-minute long sessions, which again happen in an online mode. Once the lockdown ends, of course, it will be converted into a full-fledged workshop, depending on how an organization or a group of people wants to take it up. So coming back to what am I doing during the lockdown time, we have continued with our classes. We shifted on to online pretty early, even before the lockdown happened. And I think those classes are really something which I really look forward to. And many of the students are here. I'm sure they also look forward to that, as it is giving us an opportunity to stay fit, stay agile, continue to be active, and since it's an art form, it keeps our brain also very, very active. So I really look forward to that. In fact, I've increased my number of classes from 3 to 4, which I teach, and I'm also attending classes by our international masters, which the opportunity that we did not have earlier. So earlier we used to have to travel all the way to be able to attend those classes. Now we can do that online. Either I'm attending those or watching those online. Practically, you can say, if not all 7 days, at least 6 days a week, I'm busy and engaged there. In parallel, of course, there are household stuff that I'm taking care of. And yeah, on the work front, from my consulting background, and I'm connecting with many more people. So I think that's a big change that I've brought about in myself. Of course, earlier also being into consulting and self-employed, I've connected, done networking, I've connected out, reached out to people, but not in this way. So what I'm doing now is reaching out to almost anybody that I would have known over the last maybe 20, 25 years. In
Yep. Because normally the explanation is, oh, I don't have sufficient time, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
So now is a good time to actually go back to those relationships, deepen those relationships further. So, so you said doing online. So you have 100% attendance in this as well.
Not really.
Like
not
how
really.
it is with school children. School children are scared that I don't want to miss, so I must attend, because teacher goes role wise, name wise, and takes the attendance. How's it here? So what's the kind of percentage that attends?
So I guess there's a compulsion out there for kids to attend, but here I think we have an attendance of over 80%. I would definitely say that it is 100%, because some people who are fairly new had joined a month or two back. They found it challenging to really take things online, because the initial time period to pick up the basic techniques, that is crucial. And uh, and right now we don't have a volume where I would conduct a different separate class for them. So they're finding it difficult to kind of keep pace with the rest of the people.
Okay.
And one or two people didn't. And the shift from physical to digital or the online, they were not too happy with that change. So they said, okay, we'll continue once we are back in the physical class and the classroom.
So how's it different when you do face to face versus what you do virtual now? How's that different? How's that classroom different?
So some things are similar, some things are quite different. When you ask about the different, what is different, of course, anything which has to happen with a partner cannot happen here, unless and until you have another person at home who's also doing karate just like you. From the same family, we have multiple people. Otherwise, you can't do partner practice. You
Yes.
can't do anything which requires an attacker, or for you to be an attacker and the other person to be a defender. Some of the endurance stuff like back training. So back training is either you are holding a handheld bag or there is a stationary bag. So all the kicking, punching that boxers like they also do. So that's something
Yes.
again we cannot do at home. So those are things which cannot be done at home.
Yeah.
Learning complex combinations which are entirely new. It may be a little difficult for somebody who's not spent as much time in the art. People who have spent longer years can at least still correlate with what those combinations are, because they understand the basic techniques well. So learning something new entirely, a complex combination can also be difficult. But since we talked about what is difficult or different, let's talk about what is maybe better with the online. Yeah.
Okay. So,
So
Rahul, you had said in one of your posts, you had actually talked about why do you have this partner practice in karate, the context
yeah.
behind it. So I request that you share that here as well, because you
So
connected
that's
it to how it is with the corporate world. If you can create that kind of partnership.
sure, Robin. So it's one of the most important dimensions of karate. And when I mentioned in the beginning that karate is beyond the physical and it teaches us so much more about life and living, this partner practice, like you mentioned, how does it gear us up for the corporate? So we have actually used the word partner and not opponent. In the classroom, the person could be attacking you. They could be doing a one-on-one fighting with you, which is what we do regularly as a part of our training. And we still call them a partner. We don't call them an opponent. So there's a philosophy behind that. Why do we call the person a partner? Uh, the entire premise is that the person is helping you to become better. So I may be my defense may be weak in some areas. My techniques may not be too good to get through to the opponent, or I may get angry because I'm getting hit by the opponent repeatedly, the person getting through my defense. So in either case, whether it is on the technical front, how can I become better? Because my opponent is getting the better of me, he or she is helping me to learn to become better. Emotionally, then it's again very powerful because if I do not have emotional control over my anger, over my fear, there's a lot of fear which also happens. So initially, when we see a strong opponent opposite us, uh, or generally there's just that fear of maybe fighting somebody. So the person is actually helping us develop that emotional control also, managing
Yeah.
our emotions well,
Yeah.
which if we relate with the corporate world, it is so very important. So when we look at maybe opponents in the industry, competitors, what are we learning from them? Are we learning from them really? Do we carry that mindset of learning from them instead of just thinking that they are competitors and they are out to kill us in the market? Similar way, when we are working with people around, how well are we managing our emotions? Which is, I think, for the last couple of decades, has been one of the most talked about and a topic which where people are trained so much. Because if you look at the entire academic experience, a talk on emotions, managing emotions, that just doesn't happen. So just to add to it, I've had so many experiences with my students where maybe kids and even adults, they talk about how this entire experience helps them to actually build a lot of emotional control.
Yeah, as what you said is true. I think in karate is the one where when you do kumite or what you call sparring, it's actually win-win for both.
Oh
Versus
yes,
it's a win-lose in the corporate world.
oh yes, absolutely. So again, I would say in the corporate world, we see it as win-lose because
Yes.
we take a certain mindset
Yeah.
which we are bringing from academics that only one person comes first and nobody else.
And
But in
we are
karate,
trained like that over there.
so in karate, we don't see it like that.
That's right.
Of course, somebody who's going for competitions may look at it that way, but there also there's a learning as to what happened. How could the
Yes.
other person be getting the better of us? So what were they doing
True.
better? What is it that we need to improve?
True. True.
But so frankly speaking, competition is still the sport part of the karate. But if you look at the art, then it's more about self growth and self development.
So, Rahul, moving on. Um, how does keeping physically fit help against the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think all of us understand that one mind and body are connected very closely. So healthy mind stays in a healthy body and vice versa. Um, so there are multiple ways, but I would like to talk about two of them. So physically, of course, when we are fitter, when we are working on our endurance, when we are working out our lungs, the aerobic capacity, we are much stronger that way, and the immune system is also much stronger. So that let's say either maybe the infection doesn't happen or if it happens to somebody, they are in a much better position to recover.
Can you say something
Uh,
more about the lung capacity?
so typically we use only 50% of our lung capacity when we are going through the entire day. So that's an interesting thing. We have about 5 to 6 liters of air worth of lung capacity. And at any given point of time when we're just sitting or through a normal routine, we're just using 50% of it. But when we exercise and we push ourselves and we start taking in more air, that's when we are beginning to use much more of our lung capacity.
So
And that is
karate,
something.
so does karate help in building your lung capacity, and how?
Absolutely. So when we do our some of the combinations, the kicking, and in fact even kumite, there is so much of work on endurance and the aerobic capacity. Um, I can say for sure that this is one of the toughest physical routines to follow. So when we talk about playing tennis and maybe football, and I have done that, played various other sports. But you do kumite, which is our fighting, and especially when you're getting the legs up and doing all your kicks, it just throws you off. If you look at MMA fighters, whenever they have their bouts, they will be very active in kicking for the initial few seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Beyond that, everybody comes down to just punching or grappling. Why is that? Is because kicking takes out the steam out of you. It tires you out like anything. So that's one side of it. The second side is that it also helps us in taking the stress away. So in my class, apart from school and college students, I have people who are like uh, pilots, and one of them is here. Then we have lawyers with the Supreme Court, other professionals. There's a huge amount of stress that builds up. And some of these professions are very, very stress prone, high pressure professions. So, and had this feedback consistently from all of them that when they go through the experience of the class, they step out completely refreshed. Stress has been taken off. They are no longer thinking about, okay, what were those worries and how are they getting affected by those pressures. So the mind is in a much more fresh state to start looking things from a different angle
So what I
and
hear
think
you
of,
say, Rahul, is uh, instead of coming out tired, they come out refreshed.
oh yes, absolutely. So the benefit to the body and the benefit to the brain, that's tremendous. And just to add to that, something which I keep saying over and over, at least in my class, uh, uh, unfortunately, through the media, we get to see only the physical side. And that's what is gets demonstrated. That is what is visible. That is what is available also to people generally. But when you actually look at it, the expression is physical, but the art is completely mental.
Mm.
And hence, and hence the person has to be completely engaged in the class when they're there. You can't be really in the class physically and mind wise you're somewhere else. That just cannot happen.
You have to be totally present. I get it. I've seen mine. I used to take my son to his karate classes, and I used to see it. And I used to see that, especially while you're sparring, you lose your attention, you can get a kick straight on your face,
Oh
or,
yes.
or a punch on your face. That I've seen lots of times. And their teacher would keep saying, "Be here. क्या सोच रहा है? किधर गया तुम? किधर गायब हो गया?" Yeah. Okay. So Rahul, in the current situation, what can one do to stay fit? Because we are not stepping out of the house. In our colony, we are asked not even to go out for a walk in the morning or in the evening. So some people continue to do that, but most of us are staying home. So what can one do to stay fit while you're home?
Sure, Robin. So before I answer that, I would like to acknowledge Meenu. She said it is a lot like music, the engagement of the brain. I would say yes, Meenu. Absolutely. Most of the art forms do that to us. There's a complete mind and body engagement. You just cannot be in a different place while you are actively involved in the art form. So thanks, Meenu, for sharing that. So, Robin, coming back to the question, what can we do? I think so. Most of us, when we are doing karate, and I'm just taking that as an example to begin with, we are in a space. I tell my students to have a space which is perhaps 8 by 8 feet, a clear space of 8 by 8 feet, and I'm sure that is something really easy to find in any place wherever we are, in
Possible.
our home, maybe a balcony, maybe a terrace, wherever we are. So if we can do karate in a place, in a space which is 8 by 8 feet, I'm sure there is much more which is possible for anybody to do. So one of my students, in fact, he has his is a transformation story. I think over the last 9 months, he has lost more than 30 kgs. So what he did was he combined his karate training along with a lot of changes to his diet. So which is something that we must be watchful when you ask me what can we do right now to stay fit and healthy.
Yeah, especially
That is
those of us who are not practicing karate.
yeah, I would say so. The other thing that you can do is add some physical activity. We know in today's time, sitting is the a new smoking, and the more we sit, like I shared, we don't use our lung capacity. The blood circulation goes down, and our brain is not also getting sufficient amount of blood because the circulation goes down. So what we can do is just move around, and those steps count. So I don't think that taking steps or just moving around, walking is restricted or it can be inhibited by being anywhere in the house, on the terrace, anywhere else. So I was reading, interestingly, you asked me that question. I was reading somewhere, example of a man. I don't know if it is absolutely true or it is an over exaggeration, but a man did a 43-kilometer marathon on his balcony.
Yes, yes,
So
I
it,
read that too.
yeah, so maybe that is an overdoing of it, but it's a very classic example of what is possible even in a constricted or a restricted environment.
Yep, yep. Yeah, one can do that. And so once this pandemic is over, what kind of lifestyle changes we must do?
I think people would have fairly experienced in these many weeks. Already it's been what, I think 6 weeks, another two to go in India, especially the restricted areas. So when you're saying, yeah, perhaps 43 kilometers over the lockdown period, I think that should also be good, you know. So what changes? Like I was saying that we would have experienced what it means to be eating at home, what it means to be eating meals cooked at home, because I see a huge trend of people eating out or ordering food from outside during normal time, and I'm definitely not a fan of that. So if you ask me and my family, we choose to eat home cooked food any given day. Even if there is nothing really prepared at home, still we would not prefer to order something from outside. So we just put together something at home and eat. Um, for many reasons, I would say I'm not casting any aspersions or doubting what people from outside they are serving us. My point is that at home we are much more careful about what we buy in terms of vegetables, the choices of food grains and other stuff. In what oil do we cook? How do we cook it? So all of that we are so particular about. Hence, how can we just outsource it to somebody else without knowing what they're doing about it? So my preference is for eating healthy home cooked food. And when I say healthy, it is a good combination of non-refined carbohydrates in good measure, and of course combined with proteins and fats. So there's a good balance of normal Indian meals plus fruits during the breaks um, and stuff like that.
So
So
now
the biggest problem.
that's about with the food. How about mental health too? Because I know this pandemic has done some things to our mental thing as well.
Yeah. So there are two things which come to my mind, maybe three. Satyan, I'll just come back to your question. So let me complete this one. So there are two or three things which I can definitely talk about. Some things that I practice, and most of these things I'm talking about, I practice myself. So this is coming straight from the gut when you asked about what beyond food. So
Yeah, because
one is meditation.
in this pandemic, one is food, then physical exercises. Also, what about
Yeah,
mental? Making sure
yeah.
that
So
once the pandemic is over, how do we maintain that?
for the mental, one thing that I do regularly, I've been doing for over 15 years now, is morning meditation. So barring special instances when I'm traveling or something else comes up, I meditate for 1 hour daily, and that's the minimum. Now, some days may be better, some days may not be as good, but then it still is a practice that I follow regularly. Now, I'm not sure how many of us have experienced it, but whoever has not, I would recommend that you start with at least 10 minutes, and something that we do even in our karate class on especially Saturdays when we have our class like today. Uh, we do half an hour of meditation. So it's a so even if you start with 10 minutes, it's really powerful. The second thing I can talk about is learn an art form. We have been discussing about karate, Meenu mentioned music. Learn an art form. It's very powerful because it helps you in keeping your mind active. It takes you off from the stresses that you're experiencing. And third thing could be, yeah, so whether art form is music or some physical art form, dance, karate, etc., or exercise for that matter. Third thing could be that maybe engage in something creative. It can be even something as simple as doing crosswords or maybe some kind of drawing, maybe Sudoku, any of those things. They keep you mentally active and they take you away from the stress that you're experiencing. Okay, so Robin, just coming back to the question from Satyan,
Yes, yes.
that's an important one. So most of our diet today it is heavily loaded with refined carbohydrates, and refined carbohydrates are typically your refined sugar, the normal white sugar that we have. It is maida-based things, anything which is based made of refined flour, refined wheat flour, so which we call maida. Contrary to those, or as compared to that, of course, cutting out sugar as much as you can. So I don't take sugar in anything through the day. In fact, I'm not a very beverages person. So I see some people having their tea right now, or maybe coffee. So I'm a non-beverages person. I don't have. There is no sugar in the
Yeah.
day. The only thing that I'm fond of is maybe chocolate. You can say. So I've cut out all sugar from my life for the last, I think, what, 15 years now, maybe longer. And if at most I have something as a sweet as then that piece of chocolate maybe in the day.
And in
Then
chocolate,
remove.
if I remember correctly, you like dark chocolate.
Oh yes, absolutely.
No, not the
The
other
darker,
ones, right?
the darker it is, the better it is. Otherwise, it starts tasting like mithai.
Okay.
No sugar. So
I remember that.
the other part of non-refined is having a lot of fiber-based stuff like fruits, whole wheat kind of stuff. If you can have that, maybe oats.
Mm.
So anything which is not made of sugar, maida, uh, primarily that. And
Okay.
also, as Indians, more than 90% of our diet is just carbohydrates. So we also need to look at whether we are having enough protein. And contrary to maybe Western belief, also having fats, because fats are required for a lot of vitamins and other nutrients to be absorbed in the body. Otherwise, they don't get absorbed in the body.
So now, coming to, since all of us are working, some may be in business, some of us are professionals, some in service. So how does practicing karate help in one's professional life?
So all the benefits that we talked so far about keeping physically fit, keeping mentally focused, stress-free, those benefits anyhow they come to any professional from any walk of life, and they help us because having that physical energy at work, having that mental focus at work, it's extremely important. Being able to work on things, being able to take decisions without being stressed out, that's again important. But if you go beyond that, there is much more which actually happens through the process of following karate. And if I talk about a few of them, so let's say we talk about mental focus and concentration. So that's something which one develops quite a bit when you're pursuing karate. Then, so of course, I can go on and on about this. How to work with other people because we do so much of partner practice we talked about. So that's something that you pick up for working people. Then some of our practices are they make us look at we look at things from a 360-degree perspective. So the opponent is in front of us, but there could be people around us, or maybe the same opponent we are kind of attacking or working with from a 360-degree angle. And that's a powerful insight because when we are working with others in the corporate world, uh, are we taking a 360-degree view of situations? Are we, when we are communicating, are we taking in inputs from everybody who's involved? Um, when we are working with others, are we understanding other people's perspective? When we are looking at problems, are we again looking at things from a 360-degree perspective before jumping to, arriving at a conclusion or taking a decision or taking any action?
Yeah.
So that's a very powerful one. It is very subtle, but it's very powerful.
Okay, thanks. Okay, but now I want to put it open to anybody who wants to ask Rahul any questions. Remember, today's session is about holistic health through the martial arts. So you can unmute yourself, ask Rahul the question you have been wanting to ask. Please go ahead.
Any questions, guys?
You could go ahead.
Yeah, this is Stage. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sage.
Uh, Hi, everybody. My main question would be pertaining to the art itself. So I'm hoping online classes would be a permanent feature now. Um, since, as you very well know, with my profession, that's the only way I can remain regular. But that has to be in a combination with the physical part of it also. So that's important because we need to be there physically for you to be able to see us do the sequences and see that the form is actually correct. I'm basically looking forward to that. And I actually don't really have a question. I was just wanted to say that it's been a really wonderful experience so far. And I'm hoping a little more emphasis on the spiritual side of it because karate is all martial arts actually. They are a combination of the mind and body. They are not actually just the body. You have to get your mind involved also into the game, otherwise, you'll never really be very good at it. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Tej. Okay,
Thank you, Tej.
someone else? Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. Now, most of the
Rahul, I have a
karate
question.
practitioners know it, but non-karate practitioners, please ask. Yeah, go ahead, Binu.
Yeah, thank you. Rahul, you said you've been with this for 26 years. And my question is, during these 26 years, if you can share with us how it has helped you evolve as a person at a personal level and at a professional level. You know, it would be nice. I mean, if you are willing to share, of course, but what are the changes and transformations you've seen in yourself through this journey of 26 years?
Thanks, Meenu. So that's a wonderful question because it helps me to bring forth my own personal experiences, as you said, from my journey. What can I share? So there are fundamental, profound things. So I would take a step back and again begin with what made me step into teaching. Some early experiences about helping people out and see them grow is something which made me really step into teaching full time. And when I experienced that, it was so powerful and compelling that I said, okay, I want to do this not just once in a while, but more regularly. And my journey started from there. And if I share very frankly, so as an introvert, I was dead scared of being on the stage, any kind of public speaking. And I actually shied away from doing that for part of my life. Of course, when I started moving into the professional side, I started realizing that uh, this fear is going to act as a big impediment to my own growth, professional growth as well as personal growth. Now, karate over so many years it has helped me, and when I started actually teaching, so I put myself into a position where I had to be in front of people and teach them. So now you can no longer be sticking to your fear. So you have to let that fear go off and embrace the passion and the purpose which is driving one to me to actually teach. So when I embrace that other side of the fear and all that, it brought about a big change in me. And if you ask me professionally how it helped me, continuing with the same line of passion, I actually also picked up corporate training and facilitation as the other part of my professional life. So again, it's also all about public speaking, standing in front of people, talking, and that is again one more place which is where it has helped me big time. Yeah. So one thing which helped me in multiple places. Beyond that, of course, I've taught so many people over the years, and I would say there's a huge, huge acceptance. So everywhere today we talk about diversity and inclusion. My line of thinking has always been that it starts from acceptance. So in my class, I accept anybody coming from any background, any kind of physical state, any kind of mental state. And the organization that I belong to globally is it also does that. So there's a core philosophy and a value system which talks about acceptance. So it has also helped me grow as a person to accept. And if I share with you, in one of my corporate experiences, I had a differently abled person in my team. In fact, I specifically took her from another team to my team to give her an opportunity to be able to grow. And when I was leaving that organization, that person was like completely in tears, broken. And that was another big experience for me. That look at what acceptance can do, what acceptance can make happen. And third, I would say the spirit of contribution has helped me to see how people can grow. So that has brought me back into the leadership aspect of helping people grow, developing empathy as to what other people want, looking at each student's need and what is it that they want, communicating with them closely, understanding what's happening, and you build a stronger relationship. So the entire dimension of engaging with people, building others, developing others, and I see that happening right from early childhood for people who join me that early. So I'm not sure if your question is answered fully, but yeah, some of those are the dimensions which I can correlate with the corporate side of one's profession.
You're on mute.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant to hear this, sharing. Thank you so much for doing the reflection and sort of, sharing with us. It's pretty inspiring when we hear the real sort of change, the three pieces that you've talked about, the self and the towards the community or others. And I really like the point about the diversity piece that you talked about, because acceptance and never connected the two. Thanks.
Thank you, Meenu. I would like to, I know we have overstayed the time, but if you guys are a little patient with us and allow us to go further for a few minutes, I would like to share one experience uh, from the time that I was first traveling to our headquarters at New York. So my grandmaster is based out of New York. He's a Japanese. The first time I was traveling there was back in 2004. It had been about 2 years I had started teaching. And as a part of our experience there, and I was going for my test to the second degree black belt, we were made to go blindfolded. And for 3.5 hours on a given day, I was blindfolded. 3.5 hours. I was walking on the streets of Manhattan. Of course, there was somebody to guide me, and like we do trust walks, but this was like real happening there, and not just in the park or something. On the streets, I did 2 1-hour classes, both with visually challenged people, and it knocked me off. That was the day I realized that those guys are far, far better in our world, the way they cope up, the way they have brought changes to their life, as compared to how we would be if we were to land in there, maybe losing one of our sensory organs, the sight. And it was a shocking experience. It was a mind opening experience, I would say, to realize how people cope up and how they have made their lives so far better, even with maybe something which has been imposed to them as a so-called limitation, but for them it's no longer a limitation. And I would just take 30 seconds to extend that experience. I was standing opposite um, one of the visually challenged students, and we were supposed to do some kind of a drill. So we were waiting for an instruction from the instructor who was teaching, and we were not supposed to move. I was just adjusting my position, and this guy says, my partner says, don't move. You're not supposed to move yet. It was for me quite, quite an experience. That person can standing there, not able to see, but he can sense that I have just shifted from my place. You can imagine the kind of fear it brought into me that when we start moving, he doesn't need to see where I'm going. he's going to hit me hard, and yeah, and those some of those guys are so powerful. Another experience is of a person who's in our system is visually challenged. I think a couple of years back, he was already a third degree black belt, and he himself was an instructor for others. So this entire theme on the thread of acceptance, it actually started from there by looking at people out there and experiencing as to how they are so far better off in life. And they have done that. They worked on it. It's not that they've been sitting and doing nothing and that has happened.
Wow,
Thank you,
Rahul,
Meenu.
thanks for that one. Meenu, thank you for that question. Rahul, it gave me goosebumps when you talked about this visually challenged person. Oh, man. Yes. Okay, anyone else? Any other question you have before we sign off? And by the way, Zoom just sent a message saying that we are extending your 45 minutes for free. That's how we could go on. Okay, any other questions, folks? We have got a master here. So it would be a good idea for all the non-karatekas to actually ask a question. I don't know. I know there's Meenu and there's Nupur here. If anybody is speaking, you've got to unmute yourself. Okay. All right, folks. Yeah, I heard somebody.
Yeah.
That's Nupur.
Just,
yeah, go ahead, Nupur.
Rahul, so I have 2 kids and I'm really energized hearing about the karate experience, and I would also like to kind of, look at karate to begin with. So what would be some of your kind of tips, or, because all this is quite overwhelming, the whole refined, carbs and meditation as a whole, it's quite a bit. So if I were to initiate my family and me into it, what would be, some suggestions, or how do we start the process?
Just start. Anybody who asks me, even when I get inquiries for my classes as to okay, what do we do and how do we start and this and that, so I just say okay, just start. That's it. There's nothing else. Everything else happens slowly. So changes are not going to happen just overnight. But what also karate does to us is it brings a lot of discipline to our lives. And I would like to quote an example out there. One of my first students when I started off, an adult, he was in our senior class, and one day he came to me to share an experience. He said, I used to smoke. I said, okay. And he was 6 months into our classes. He said, I had to take a decision whether I should continue with smoking or continue with the class because I couldn't do both at the same time. And fortunately, he decided to continue with the class, and he was one of our first black belts in the class. So you can imagine how slowly life changes for people. And that was one of the most powerful experiences that I had experienced. And so I've known so many maybe medical professionals also who work with people to help them get over these addictions. But it doesn't happen. Once I was hearing a Harvard medical professional saying that over the years she's tried to get people over the addiction, especially smoking, but very difficult. Doesn't happen. But I've seen those experiences happening just through karate. So Nupur, I would suggest that I would recommend that find a good instructor. The art doesn't matter which one. So there are so many of them: taekwondo, karate, judo. Find a good instructor who can set a good example for the kids. Be a good role model. That's the only thing which really matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you.
Right. Okay, folks. So it's been over 45 minutes. And if you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we can close our session for today. Okay. Right. Also, since nobody's asking questions, so let me close the session. So thank you very much for taking your time out to do this live chat. I thank you for your generous attention that you gave to every question that was asked. Really, I truly appreciate this. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for taking out your time on a Saturday morning when you could have been doing something else, but you chose to be here. So thank you for being on this call.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you everybody for joining us. It was great speaking with all of you.
Have a great
Thank
day,
you so much,
everybody.
Kyoshi.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Robin. That was a lovely session.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Stay weekend, stay safe. Thanks.
Yeah. Stay safe, everybody.